ULM, they finished the year last year 2-10.
Bad.
They were bad last year. So already they are 3-1. They have surpassed last year's win total by beating Troy this past week. And I think the biggest challenge that we're going to have as a unit is going down there and playing in that atmosphere, right? Because, we played the Charlotte game this year, and Charlotte had a nice crowd and people were fired up. It was the first game of the season, so that was easy. Gardner Webb, we came back home, big crowd at our home stadium, season opener for us at home, right? UNC, Power 4 Stadium, people are already hyped just for the opportunity to go in and beat a UNC team. ULM, though, if we look at this team right now, they have a 28,000 seat stadium. And so far in their first 2 home games, to your point about stadium expansion, Jack Fitzpatrick, they've averaged about 12,000 fans. And that would be great if they had a 12,000 seat stadium. But the fact that over half of the stadium will be empty, and it's a 7:00 night game, road game in Louisiana. And I'm not quite sure how many of our JMU fans are going to travel to Monroe, Louisiana. This atmosphere will be a challenge for the Dukes. So your thoughts on JMU just going down there and being able to sort of overcome what will likely be maybe not so hostile environment, maybe just a dead environment.
It'll be a dead environment. It's Monroe, Louisiana, which is not the easiest place to get to. I remember when they were playing Troy last year, we talked with a Troy podcast, and they said it's hard to get to Troy, Alabama when you wake up in Troy, Alabama. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing. It's hard to get to Monroe, Louisiana when you wake up there, and that adds something to it. This is, we said it last week, and we may be saying it every week now. This is a trap game, and this just feels trappy. A new coach, a sleepy atmosphere, a team that wants to prove themselves. They know how to handle this environment. JMU doesn't. At least this team has not done it, so they don't know yet. It'll be an interesting to see how a bunch of 18 to, I guess Dylan Morris now is like what, 24, 25, a bunch of kids handle this type of game.
Yeah. And again, I think that's where it comes back to our trust and belief in Coach Bob Chesney and this staff. Can they get the guys ready? No matter what that outside noise says, let's go out and play our game. Now, I think to your point, ULM, we're not quite sure what they are. I feel a lot like the Ball State game. In fact, going into that game, I didn't know what Ball State was. I mean, they played a couple of close games. They got blown out by a top 10 team. Well, the same has sort of been the case for this ULM team. I mean, they beat a FCS Jackson State team. That game was competitive going into the third quarter, again, against an FCS team. They pulled it out 30-14. Then they blew out UAB, which I think seems to be down this year. Their only win, UAB's only win, is against an FCS team, right? And then they got blown out by Texas. And I watched the highlights of the Texas game, the full highlights of that game. I mean, they got utterly dominated. I think Texas put 50 on them. ULM only scored 3 points. And then last week they beat a Troy team, which it looks like they are also down. They beat that team 13-9. Troy's starting quarterback went out in the second quarter, so there were not a whole lot of points scored in that game. And if JMU continues their recent trend of scoring 60 or more points, then I think ULM's got to put up way more points than 13 to be able to hang with us. So what are your thoughts, I guess, on how they've performed over the first several games of the season?
Well, if you were an over better on the ULM win total coming into this season, it has already cashed, because coming into the year, there was really low expectations. Their win total was set at 2.5 coming into this season. Already you've hit that. But ULM, good defense, maybe one of the worst offenses in the nation. They don't really do anything well offensively. That should be a cakewalk for JMU's defense. Offensively, it's kind of a good on good type of situation. ULM's best part of their defense is slowing down passing attacks. This season, they've allowed negative 0.19 EPA per pass. So for every pass play, that ULM has had to defend against. You can look up to the scoreboard and you can watch negative 0.19 points come off of the board each and every time, which is 34th in the nation. JMU's offense has a 0.10 EPA per pass, which is 49th in the nation. So that's kind of a good on good matchup. And if JMU can move the ball, if they can hit their deep shots, the 3 or 4 or 5 deep shots that Dean Kennedy has in his bag, if they hit 1 or 2 of those, I don't see ULM having enough offense to overcome that.
Yeah. By the way, I love that you came through with the EPA stats. That's my guy, meeting expectations. Now, I gotta say, I am so confused as to why this ULM offense is so bad. Like, I can't figure it out. I mean, General Booty, who is their quarterback, one
What a
of
name.
I mean, top 10 names in college football. But General Booty, he seems like a very capable signal caller, right? I mean, he transferred from Oklahoma, I think. And he goes there to play, and I thought that would be a huge boon to this program. Now, maybe it has translated that way because they've already exceeded their win total from last year, but they are not very productive at all. I mean, I think he only has 241 yards passing and 1 touchdown through 4 games, and he seems like a pretty smart quarterback. He makes pretty good decisions. He's got a good arm. And it's interesting. They run sort of a zone read offensive scheme as well. And I've seen where he has kept the ball on that zone read and actually broken off some pretty good runs. And so it has all the recipes of being a pretty good offense. I'm just very, very confused as to why they are so bad. Conversely, oh, go ahead. Tell me.
No,
You are
no, they
you
are
know.
just very bad. I don't understand it either. It makes they're not good at anything, and it's very rare you see an offense that's bad at everything to the extent that they are.
Yeah, they're not terrible on the run. I mean, their running back Hardy, I think, is a pretty good running back. I mean, the guy has pretty good vision. He's a very patient runner. He presses the line of scrimmage before he breaks either, cuts it back or cuts it out, bounces it out. And so they seem like a pretty good running offense. I feel like he's had some success, and they also seem to be very, very committed to the run. But if you go back and watch the Jackson State University game that they played, I think the first game of the season, Jackson State, again, off FCS program, on both sides of the ball was able to really sort of control the line of scrimmage. If not control, let's call it a tie. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, ULM gave up. I think they are susceptible to a lot of those chunk plays, just like, our previous 4 opponents have been. And so, I think if you look at some of the runs and the passes that Jackson State had against them, I mean, they had some really nice runs and they had some really nice long passing plays downfield. And I think we should be able to have a day against this defense, especially considering they run a more sort of traditional 3-4 defense with cover 2 behind it. There's going to be an extra defender back there that AB3 is going to have to negotiate. But if you looked at what Ball State did this past week, I mean, they ran sort of that same set a lot, and we had a lot of success against it. So it's not something that AB3 has not seen, but maybe something that we haven't seen is an edge rusher like this kid Pullen that they have, who is in the backfield a lot for ULM. He has 3.5 sacks coming into this game. I would not be surprised if our running backs have to sort of stay in and help our offensive tackles, sort of help with this guy, or at least chunk him on their way out into their passing routes. So have you looked at their defense and any thoughts on this kid Pullen, who's a really good edge rusher who's probably going to wreak some havoc on Saturday?
He'll have his work cut out for him against one of the top offensive lines in the nation. JMU's ranked 7th in the nation in pass blocking per PFF, 6th in the nation in run blocking per PFF. They should be able to shut down Billy Pullen. If
Yeah.
they're unable to, I'm not going to say hit the panic button or anything. Good for Billy Pullen if he's able to go off. But JMU's offensive line has shown that they're capable of of slowing down edge defenders. And whether it's Simmons, whether it's McMurtry, whether it's Ramil, Robel, whoever is matched up against him with whatever platoon they bring in, I think should be able to slow him down in this game.
Yeah, he's a solid kid though. I hope you are absolutely right. What's interesting, I think, is that this should be really not a close football game. Like I don't know if the line has come out on this game yet. But I would not be surprised if we're not favored by 3 touchdowns, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what actually happens on the field. And so hopefully the guys go out and they're actually ready to play. So, Jack, any final thoughts on ULM and this game coming up? I guess this week we actually get to test Bennett's theory about AB3 being sort of a daytime game
Yeah.
quarterback, because unfortunately this is a 7 p.m. kickoff. Now it's in another time zone, so I don't know if that matters.
That
Technically,
may impact some things. Yeah.
that may impact, right? So we get to test the theory. But any final thoughts on ULM before we move to what you talking about, Willis?
This also has the potential to be just a weird game in general. I was just crunching the numbers. They average 38 rushes per game and just 17 passes per game.
Yeah.
Like, they want to control the time of possession, lean on their defense. I mean, shout out, I think Brian Vincent is his name. Shout out Brian Vincent, their first year head coach, understanding that they probably have the talent disadvantage in most of these games. General Booty has kind of been, booty with some of these games. He's had his moments, but I don't know if he got bent. You may have said this. I don't know if he got benched or injured last game.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you knew. I mean, I did a lot of research because he left that game and they brought in another kid. And I'm going to guess he got benched because I saw nothing about injury.
Yeah, I've seen that. No one covers ULM football apparently because there are no news articles around this team. If he was benched, it looks like Aiden Armenta, a redshirt freshman, came in for him. He went 4 for 6, 108 yards in that Troy game. Also ran the ball for 10 yards. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. It's just has the capability. If ULM gets into the game script they want, this could be one of the most maddening games we've watched as JMU fans in quite some time. Will ULM do that? I think it's highly unlikely, but in the rare case that they can, buckle up. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're committed to the run. They want to control the ball and keep our offense on the sideline. And, to your point, the defense has to find a way to stop that running back because their passing game is not great and get off the field.